Let's go.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, I guess I can do the outlets, and we don't have any members other than our speakers for tonight. So, okay, I call the August 5th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting at Glencoe Park District to order. Lisa, please call the roll and note the time.
It's 7 o'clock. Commissioner Colby,
Here. Bless you.
Commissioner Hayes is,
Here.
Commissioner Guzman is absent, Commissioner Whiteman. Here. And President Fain.
Here. Okay. Given that there's no members, from the public, we'll move forward with the discussion on the community survey for the beach rooms. Boat storage and boardwalk with White Company. Director Cruz will present a summary of the community input received for the beach structures. White Company will be available to answer any questions.
Thank you, President Spain. Good evening, everyone. So here tonight, obviously, to discuss the follow-up to the beach structure community input process. So just kind of a recap of where we started back at the July committee meeting. White and Company and staff presented the initial round of questions we were going to be targeting to the community surrounding the 4 major areas for the beach phase 1 and 2 projects. That would be the trellis, beach house, sun shelters, and boardwalk, as well as the boat storage and boat lockers. After the committee meeting, we had an initial community input meeting the following day. I think we had about 30 or so people attend that meeting. We also had the lakefront advisory meeting, I think a week after that. So 3 different in-person opportunities for the public to give their comments and thoughts on all the items we were asking about. And then a couple days after that, we released the community survey, which was on the street for about a week, which we had an overwhelming amount of responses through that medium. And so tonight, really looking to present all the information to the board from that community input process, have the board discuss the targeted questions and ideally give staff and the design team direction to bring back concept options in the fall for further review. So we're really going to run through the process initially and then each question with the results and then kind of pause, let the board discuss and give direction or follow-up questions and discussion. And Anya and Nat are both here from White and Company as well to answer any questions. So first, real quick on the public communication end of things. So we did have 2 beach signs with QR codes out at the beach. Did not get a lot of traction through that, only 2 scans. Really a lot of success through our email, social media, and website. As you can see the numbers up here, 300 YouTube videos, email blast went to 4,200 with a 72% open rate and 11% click rate. Social media, we had almost 8,500 Instagram views, 1,200 Facebook impressions, and 280 LinkedIn impressions. And then our website had 205 views. So clearly people give the information through our social media and website primarily, which is very evident here. Aaron, anything you wanted to add to that? Or?
Yeah, no one scanned our QR code. Only 2 people. That's
Well,
crazy to me.
I think the Wi-Fi at the beach is also.
Very true.
No.
Very true.
You know, think about people are walking by, they have stuff in their hands, so they're walking to the bathroom, not carrying their phones. But it's worth, you know what, people still saw it.
I saw it. So it was there. So maybe they went back to the website.
Yeah, maybe they went back later.
Yeah.
When it shows the views, do you differentiate between, different, the views coming from different people or different devices?
That was-
Or could somebody click twice and it's a 2
Um,
views for like Instagram, social media?
those are just the YouTube views right there. So,
Are they unique?
But for like
Jessica?
Instagram, yeah,
yeah, they,
'cause that's a lot of people, that's almost.
yeah.
That are copies, right?
No, those are not, it would be, they could have viewed it.
They could have like been interested.
We did not.
They could have been there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very strong.
That's a lot of time playing. Okay, so 2,000 off that. Yeah, right, it's still quite.
So a lot of good traction through all those.
The YouTube views, that link did go from the survey, that was embedded, so that would have played with the survey.
So some raw data on the survey respondents. So we had 341 total survey respondents, overwhelming majority through the email, social media at about 17%. In-person meeting was only 3% of the total respondents. I think we had 30 at the initial meeting,
Yeah.
and then probably a few from the Lakefront Advisory Committee as well. And so now we'll just get into the questions that were asked and the responses and then kind of open it up for discussion. So question number 1 related to the trellis roof. We offered up 3 options, the flat roof, the gabled roof, and the operable trellis roof. Flat roof had the lowest response, 17% or 57 total people. The gabled roof had the most traction at 46%, 157 total people, and the operable trellis had 36%, or 122 total people. It might be worth noting that the flat roof and operable trellis would have a similar profile, given their design. So if we had only given the gabled roof and the operable trellis roof, it's possible that those numbers would have been a little closer to 50-50. But still, based on the three that were provided, gabled roof was the preferred option, with operable trellis in second. And so now I just kind of wanted to ask the board if you are in favor of seeing two different gabled roof options as part of the conceptual design, or if you would like to see one gabled roof option and one operable trellis roof option brought back in the fall.
I have a question for our experts over here. How about the trellis, one that opens up, apparently, I have a pretty operable, thank you. Advantages, disadvantages of that, I mean, what are the negatives? I mean, there's always plus and minus.
So the advantages is you have the ability for it to be in the open position with daylight,
Right,
sunlight.
of course, sir.
They're also controlled by both weather and wind sensors so that they would close on their own,
Okay,
as well as a time clock. So it almost protects itself from that. So that's one advantage of that. It could also incorporate lighting and ceiling fans. But it's an operable part, so it's something that you're gonna have to
Right.
kind of keep your maintenance on it as well. You know, the gabled roof is a permanent thing. You have that as,
I understand that one. It's just
Yeah.
the other one I haven't seen before.
yeah.
I intuitively, some of the positives, but there's always a downside to something. I don't know. If you guys should share your experiences with it.
I was gonna ask about the money, like what's the difference?
So, although they're similar, the operable one is more expensive. It's probably about 30 to 40% more expensive than a permanent pitched roof would be.
I think it would be interesting to see, is it possible to kind of see how that would look? So it's obviously right now, and people, I think we're gonna continue going through this, but I mean, it seems like everyone wants your traditional, like you're in Mexico resort beach look for it, but it's gonna change the profile of how things look for everything, like all of the roofs, I think, as we go through this are kind of like that. And I think it would just be helpful to see maybe an illustration of how that's gonna change the feel of the beach, because people might vote for it, but then they might be like, I don't want to change. So I don't know, it just,
Well, that's why
Yeah.
we go into the design next, right? So you
Uh-huh.
just have to tell us if that's when you'll see what it looks like, but if
And I
you
know-
want us to do one of each, then we'll do one of each,
I can't even picture how different, so if we did the two different gable roof options. Would it?
How much different is?
Yeah, how much different are would two options be?
Probably the roof covering of it will be different, there's existing beach house, Spanish revival style, it's got a clay roof. So when we will look at this, just to make it cohesive all together, the beach house, the trellis, and also the sunshades, sun shelters. Just wanna make sure they look like one set. So trellis has trellis because of its size has like more opportunities for design. So we can look at this with the clay tile. We can look at this with the standing seam metal roof on the top of it, and probably because that's probably the roofing that will be on the sun shelters. So we either get closer to the beach house or we match trellis to the sun shelters. And then when we look at the operable trellis option, yes, there's a mechanism in it, and there's like 3 bays inside. But the profile of the wood or wood-like structure that houses these profiles, they will be also stylized.
An operable trellis would look much more similar to what we currently
Yeah.
have
Yes.
in place.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I answered exactly your question.
Yeah, so it sounds like you could still do variation.
Right.
you're seeing more and more outdoor patios at restaurants use that operable trellis roof now.
what's the staff's preference?
On this one, honestly, the operable trellis has some ongoing maintenance. It'll have motorized, operated, and the louvers will require some ongoing maintenance, but I don't consider that to be an overwhelming burden. It's just like any other piece of mechanical equipment we have. This is one where I don't really have a strong preference. I think we would look to the board to, take the community's feedback into account and kind of discuss and get
I
direction.
think the community has scoping. And what the community is telling us, at least from my impression here, is move away from the flat roof as definite. Okay. I think it's probably up for us to figure out the one gable roof or the one operable trellis roof. Keep in mind, the operable trellis roof actually is kind of the closest thing that we have to today, because today you have it where it's open 100% of the time. So I think we're gonna end up probably a gable roof, but my preference would be to listen to the community, which is still over a third, want the operable thing and take a look at it and see. I think the operable, as an operations guy, I don't love it because it's just one more damn thing to break. But as a marketing person, I'm like, this is what we can sell for events. You want to have your outdoor event with on a beautiful day and you want the sun shining down? Do it. If you don't, we can close it. So I think it gives you that flex, but I just don't think we're there yet.
And to go through, I'll be interested to kind of come back to it, because if you add the two flat and comfortable, I guess there's like two kind of voting for,
We don't know what they
it's kind of flatter.
Yeah, it's about 50.
So it seems like it's 50-50. I almost think
I don't
if
think
it's possible to just kind of, this is all very abstract right now.
So do you want one beach?
I mean, the design phase is gonna bring us the more realistic of what's gonna look like, and then.
Yeah.
We can represent the community and.
Especially if it shows like a clay thing, but we look at the whole thing and it looks like, oh, that would be better to match that roof with the sun shelter. We can do that. We can envision that.
Really showing.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is
yeah,
the concept option to go back to the community, just with the same process so if we choose to do one of each, they'll be able to then give a follow-up, oh, we actually do like this or this.
Yeah.
And then to Commissioner Reifman's point, if it's a gabled roof, there's always flexibility for changing out the type or color of the roofing material based on design and board preference.
I think it'd be safer to show one, or at least one of each option. Yeah.
I think that's right.
Everybody agree?
Great. The next couple, hopefully, a little more overwhelming support. So when asked about support for outdoor showers instead of indoor showers, an overwhelming majority, 87%, 289 people were in favor of moving showers outside. 12% or 40 people were not in favor. Pretty straightforward question. If the board is in agreement with moving forward with concept designs, which would include to move the showers outside of the building.
The outdoor showers are not gonna be private, right? They're open air.
So if the board's in favor of moving them outside, we would recommend the design options would have both a combination of kind of just open shower areas and then privacy stalls. The numbers, quantities, and layout could be kind of reconfigured, but some of the comments that came back were wanting some privacy. So I think including at least one shower stall that provides some version of coverage would be something we would bring back as well.
People were to come downstairs, you could see it, but we believe most of the people that would be taking it, it's just to get the sand off. And they'll be moving on it. So we don't have to have them all covered, but definitely one. Maybe.
And I think that's where we lean on the design team to kind of see what that could look like if it's, a solid roof, a slanted roof that's kind of angled where you can't see coming down the stairs. I'd also point out that the time of year that the showers would be used, the bluff is very thick with vegetation, so there really isn't much of a sight line down, but nonetheless, probably worthwhile providing that for somebody who wants to clean off a kid or wants a little more privacy to rinse off.
Because I did chat, I was down there and I chatted with girls working on, sorry, I heard it's super portion. With the girls that worked there, and they said the showers are used a lot more than you would think. I was kind of surprised there that that'd be like, whether like much of a thing. So it's not the showers, the privacy I would think would be the biggest part because there's the outdoor shower.
Yeah.
If they're changing or anything, little kids, I'm assuming, are a big part of that, right?
The showers are used a lot, but they're used primarily to get sand off.
Okay.
I don't think a lot of people are going there with shampoo and soap and doing a full.
Oh, no, that's
So,
And we also, as we said that in one meeting, I don't know which one it was, that we have a lot of kids that go in there and turn off the showers on and leave their body, we have humidity problems and
Sand.
sand problems and things like that. So that's why, I think most people do just want to shower off and
So same idea, but just moving outside.
moving
Okay,
outside.
all right. Okay.
Yeah, and as far as if there are changes and stuff, we'll still have change the room, which we'll talk about in a second. So,
I think this is pretty overwhelming. I think we should.
everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of dovetailing off of that, would you support adding a multi-purpose room? Overwhelming support at 84% in favor, or 272 respondents. 16% were not in favor, or 53 total people. There was some context given to the ability to provide a multi-purpose room kind of being tied to whether or not showers move outside. It's, we have a limited footprint and it's what we can fit into that space. But overwhelming support to look to put in a multi-purpose room. So the question is the board in favor of adding a multi-purpose room? If the answer to that is yes, then the exact size, dimension, layout, kind of configuration of the space is what would be part of the concept options brought back in the fall. All kind of tied together again, how many bathrooms can we fit in? Are they going to be single use, traditional, we need to account for some staff space, and then how much is the multi-purpose room?
Everybody agree?
Yes.
Yep.
And now we get a little more split down the middle. So when it comes to the restroom style that is preferred, 55% preferred traditional restroom, so similar to what's down there right now, male, female. 44% or 147 respondents preferred single user bathrooms. So what we'd like the board to kind of consider is, do you want option A or B, traditional or single user? Or is there an interest in providing a mixture of traditional with one single user that would have a big enough space to change, or for a child and parent to go in to change, if the space in the building provides that. So again, White Company's got to get a little deeper into kind of conceptual design and what can actually fit these spaces and layout. But if that's an option, we'd like the board to consider that as one of the three options.
If we can't fit it, the last one was just like the one single user. I would think, the one thing when you get too many of the single user ones, I feel like people stay in there forever. Like, I just think we'll get a longer line. We haven't had to deal with that yet. We don't know, like, what wait times, but I hate standing outside of single users waiting.
Yeah, I can see people changing and then the kids
Yeah.
taking forever and then the mom staying in
Like
there
15 minutes.
versus, yeah.
I hate single-use restrooms, and I will not vote ever to have one for my personal and professional experience. But I think the question is, do you have to have one for ADA or no?
Oh, no, we don't have to have one.
You can have one in traditional.
Like an
What,
accessible.
what the benefit of doing one, single use is if you have a father that comes with a daughter, for example, and doesn't want, doesn't want to
Yeah.
go bring them in with the traditional male or two, that's usually why we have that. A lot of them have, they call them family restrooms, so that a father could take their daughter or a mother, son. It's a
Family restroom, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
So
But not.
not all single, yeah. So it sounds like the preference is to look to design to traditional with a one single user family restroom. And then if space doesn't allow for it, we have to come back. We can have that discussion about, is it just all traditional, or do we look to some other?
The other-
option?
Yeah, the other nice thing about a single restroom is that during the colder hours, you can keep just that one open.
That's what, it depends how it configures and how we bring people in, but that is a possibility. But, it all depends on, that's a good question, but we haven't even gotten into design yet, but that's something that we'll bring up, like, oh, it's a good way to do that, just, keep that one.
Because Weinberg has two single restrooms on the outside. of the
Yeah.
units.
But they they don't stay open all year, they stay open long, so we don't keep them open in the winter.
Moving on to the sun shelters. So we provided the public 4 different options to rebuild to match existing, traditional style, transitional, and contemporary. The rebuilt to match existing got 26% of the votes, or 87. Traditional style got 44% of the votes, or 144. So that was the significant leading category of this particular question. Transitional style, 16%, and contemporary style, 12.5%. So I guess the first question would be, is the board in agreement with the community's feedback and going with a traditional style? If yes, the architects would bring back 2 different traditional style options. To the earlier point about making sure that those match or complement the existing beach house, as well as whatever the trellis roof is. So all kind of, one cohesive, grouping of structures. We do not recommend that's pictured here having like the cloth privacy screening. It's just not a good idea for a public beach. We need to be able to see what's going on and make sure there's no, bad things happening. And also just from a maintenance perspective, having cloth down there is not going to be a ideal situation. So I guess the question to the board is if we're in agreement with traditional or if you'd like to consider providing one of each option.
This is probably not a popular opinion, but I kind of think the traditional style looks a little bit gaudy compared to our beach because it just reminds me of going somewhere like. And I feel like it doesn't have like a Midwest or New England sort of look to it. Are there other styles that just don't? Because it just seems like it doesn't fit in with the landscape to me.
I wonder if
Or at
it
least
shows
the
it, because it has a, because it has, like, it's the only one that has the solid roof.
Like
Right.
that picture does look like Florida,
It's
Caribbean, Mexico.
Background.
Yeah.
Rains really
yeah.
change everything out a lot.
So it's hard to. Like, can't
So
be
with-
traditional that is more like.
It would be more of the Spanish
Spanish
side.
revival, yeah, we would look into, like the details of how the Spanish revival dealt with these kind of shoulders. And, we know that it's mostly stucco and clay tiles. They do have a lot of like wood trellis kind of system that is attached to the houses. That's just on an open, more open air. And the roofs are flat, just this kind of flatter pitch, they're pitched but flatter. So we would have to look into that, say if it's, it doesn't mean we're providing this kind of parts right here.
That's what, yeah, it does mean, where it has double roof, it doesn't mean we're providing them exactly, but I think what they were going for is maybe covered roofs.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Wonder if the reason they gravitated was because it's protecting from the sun.
But, yeah,
And that
I
was the design style.
I mean, the beauty of, you don't really have to redesign what we currently have. So,
Yeah, so if we don't like what the traditional is, we can go with the rebuild.
yeah, I think,
The community's like, whoa, no,
yeah,
when they see the traditional.
yeah, I would focus on like two traditional styles here and then,
Or if you want to do one traditional style and one,
That's what I was wondering,
Well,
like he said, it might.
wait, one and one.
transitional or something like that.
I don't think you have the volume to justify that.
I think what Commissioner Kobe's getting at is we could do two different options for the traditional, and if the board and the public is like, well, this is actually not what we want, we know that the next closest was rebuilt to match existing, and we know what that design is, so then it's just a matter of giving the direction to kind of reconstruct. So
What I'm saying is is it gonna be exactly built or could it be a little bit different? So that's what I'm thinking,
We would
is that,
make a little bit.
Is it significantly
Yes.
different enough that would, like, I don't want to talk about every one of these ad nauseum, but like, we're eliminating two here, right? I think you eliminate, at the very least, you eliminate the temporary. I would probably argue that you eliminate the transitional. Is having three options still too much for the next round? Like having, semi what we have today, like 90% what we have today, plus traditional one, traditional two, is that too much for the next round?
well, my question is how much different, if you wanted to blend in with the existing structures down there, how much different can you make to traditional?
That's what,
So that's what I'm saying.
that's
Should
what
they do
you're asking.
a traditional and rebuild existing, but a little more
Clear.
clear?
I'm fine with
This
that.
seems like such a big decision for the community. There's so much interest in the beach. I think we can't make any decision without actual demonstration. So I agree that, like, if we do the traditional, you can say it's close enough, so we know what it looks like, but I feel like.
Not the traditional, the.
I mean,
current.
the current.
No, I think they have to design.
to
Okay.
design that,
Absolutely.
because I just don't think designing on
Absolutely.
anything that they didn't see.
Perfect, yeah.
Oh, absolutely,
I'm fine with
absolutely, you're right.
existing with a flare or existing as this day. You guys go with it in a traditional. I think those two are fine. I wouldn't show a transitional or contemporary.
Oh, no, yeah, I wouldn't show transitional or contemporary, it just looks
Yeah, I
like
think we're all
this
saying
is
the same
where,
thing.
yeah. The only thing I'm wondering here, and this is unlike the trellis, where we do have already the base, and, I don't think you can do too much different. for like two different styles for that one. For this, I can't even picture, like, I feel like you could go potentially a lot of ways with, for that traditional, I don't know. So that's why I'm having a hard time picturing what traditional means. And so to me, that means it could mean two very different looks. I don't know if we'd want like two looks for traditional that are actually pretty different.
I like the two in one.
Yeah.
One of the, that we could say we stick with it, or traditional could be so many different things, you need
Yeah.
two different ones.
So two concepts for traditional, one for.
Yeah.
Existing.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I also think that there could be, the decision on the trellis might influence how you go with this and
That's true.
might set the tone of the design is.
I have a follow-up question, because you were talking about the Spanish revival looks of the beach house and the play.
Yep.
Okay, our Spanish revival. And it sounded like the actual existing flat trellis styles are more in line with Spanish revival. And so this would be mixing, they're more of a mix of styles than actually what's there now.
We want to make sure that at least the bones are there of the style, but to, I don't know who said that, design of one may influence design of the other. And, you know, if we pick, let's say, the operable trellis, and that's gonna be ultimately a flat roof, this traditional, maybe with the picture, may look a little bit out of place. So I think it's also important to look at all of them, including the beach house. One elevation, or one set, and you know, which style works better.
And the current is kind of more of matches with the Spanish revival look, so to speak.
Almost, right, yes. Yeah, the top is probably could use a little bit, you know, they had, the wood is a little bit more like stronger and thicker. And they have a little bit of like brackets, not super ornamental, but just like there is a bracket and just like a small curve, you know, just a little bit in Spanish revival.
Yes, that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense that you can see them get across the way because you don't want to be on. Okay,
So
but that even makes more sense to do a traditional and existing. Okay,
Top two of each,
yes,
right, that's.
it's great. Good feedback. All right, on this one, it was how private should the sun shelters be? So 59% of respondents wanted to keep the sun shelters laid out the way they are today, open and spaced between. And 40% were in favor of adding physical barriers like a fence, plantings, or some version of a slanted wall. So is the board in agreement that keeping them spaced and privacy the same as it is today?
I do have a question. How rented are these? Is there, do you need or use for more? Cause I'm thinking, they're pretty far apart.
I think in our July meeting, we had a little bit of discussion about that, and basically it sounded to me, maybe Adam could speak to this more, but the current amount of space and sun shelters we have meets kind of the demand that we have. There's some ebb and flows and demand for it, but overall, it probably wouldn't be worth.
A little more open, I think. Because the little ones are kind of narrow with the sides that kind of can only really fit the 12 people in there. But they're not, they're used enough.
we don't need, and.
We don't need that intensity.
Yeah.
Sun shelter.
I think it would be, if they could be a little bit bigger, but not more, would be probably fun.
I like the idea of a beach. One of you guys, for those that are new on the board, will always hear me talk about like the beach to be open and accessible out there. So I like the concept of keeping them as they currently are. I think it's more of an inclusive environment. It's not this sort of crowded environment. I think it's easier for our staff to see what's going on there. I feel like incredibly strongly about it. I kind of feel like 60-40, which is coincidental, but I certainly would be against a slatted wall or a fence. If you guys want to find some plants or something like that, that can do it a little bit more naturally where it's not up there, I'd be fine with that, but, my hunch is that we want this to be open, accepting, easy place for us to operate, an easy place for us to see things. I don't want this to be like a private beach. If you want that, you can go to the Trellis and rent it out.
Gary?
I mean, how private can it really be? It's only private between you and the person next to you, but the whole beach can see what you're doing.
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's about the least amount of
Yeah.
privacy you possibly can.
Sure.
So, with the exception of people next to you, that's the people you're trying to be private from, is
Yeah.
like, if people are walking down that boardwalk
Yeah, fair point.
all day long, so there's little privacy going on.
Yeah.
It's a private, it's not a big deal. I think it's more, I think it's nice. You can have a little separation between the two with some planting and then make it even prettier or some nice grasses. You know, it adds to the whole overall feel than actual privacy, I think.
I wouldn't do anything. I think, I agree with Gary. I wouldn't, my personal stuff, I would not build something.
No,
No,
I believe it.
plants are not.
yeah. It's even more expensive. Oh, I like it open.
Okay.
Open space.
I like plants.
Okay. Needs some things.
Great.
All right, now the one that's split literally right down the middle. So, boardwalk style preferred. So 45.909% for both, stamped, flagstone as well as stamped, wood planks. So really, a couple things we want to just have the board consider. We think both options could work, but one thing that we kind of discussed is the stamped flagstone, just thinking about that would potentially be in close proximity to the real flagstone and you can't match it exactly. So that could clash. We also already have the wood planking kind of the proof of concept out on the pier. So just wanted to, from a staff's perspective, we think that that would probably aesthetically work better. If we wanted to do flagstone, we would probably have to put in some sort of a buffer zone where it's just smooth concrete between the flagstone and the sand flagstone to break it up a little bit. But just obviously the public kind of split right down the middle, but staff did have kind of an inkling and again with the design team discussion as well towards the wood planks.
I love the wood plank. I love the look of it already out in the pier, and I think it would look nice and consistent. I would planks with you guys. Look.
And I think if it's split and you have the arguments you pointed out, like,
I'm assuming cement is a much better option than currently what we have is some sort of composite, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
composite
So I'm
decks,
assuming you guys are saying that cement is a much better option.
Oh, yes.
much longer lifespan and
Okay,
much less maintenance.
okay, well,
Yeah, it's a maintenance nightmare maintaining that decking down there.
We used to have that decking on the pier, and we'd have to replace it every year. So, and this new pier, it's been holding up really well, so we know that,
okay.
that part well.
I don't really know.
Lake's also been more consistent. I remember there were times where we've seen a wave.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, I love flagstone. I mean, how bad would it look if they're real, with the real flagstone is, I mean, I'm gonna defer to you guys a little bit.
Yeah, we discussed it on internally, we said, there is no way to match real flex,
No,
that way. So like, we would have to make a transition, make it like, maybe more smooth and flat concrete work. So people cannot see them against each other. They will forget this one before they look at the.
yeah, I understand.
But the way that you walk down to the
And it's
beach now,
age.
so when you walk down to the beach, that first hill, like you're coming from Park or you're coming from Hazel, that first hill to the halfway house has
natural,
natural stone, and then when you're going down to the water plant, that's all stamped. It
pretty much, yeah, and it'll age, it'll look more natural, I guess, but it's gonna take a while to age, but yeah, it doesn't look good, it's not gonna be.
I'm fine with whatever. Everybody wants. I don't. What's wrong? I don't know.
Both good choices.
So,
I would do it plank.
like, wood,
So you have two woods, one abstaining. Abstaining goes the majority, so wood.
and trap, okay, planking, that's what the notes are gonna say. Just kidding.
I did think the planking will match well into the pier.
and it looks good now.
It can't go.
So the next stuff,
Sorry, will you pull the flagstone up from the trellis?
I'm
So
sorry.
the planking will go into the trellis?
No, it's just where, just the
Okay, just the
boardwalk,
boardwalk.
and maybe some of the transitions into the playground
Okay.
will also be the same.
So the next grouping of slides is really more kind of about the information gathered from voters, both current and prospective future voters. Just want to run through all the data and kind of talk about what we kind of inferred from the responses and see if the board's in agreement for how to approach the boat storage, boat lockers. So all the survey respondents that answered this question, 75% are not current voters, nor do they have any plans to be voters in the future. So just kind of a little reminder to us that the voters are obviously a major user of the beach, but on the whole, they're not a substantial majority of the community that uses the beach as well as respondents to the survey. Of those that do use boats or would in the future, sailboats had 6%, paddleboard 7%, kayak 4%, and not currently storing but interested in the future was 13.5%. Of those that are not currently voters but would potentially be interested in the future, what we really kind of want to point out here is that the vast majority of people that are interested in being voters in the future want to have either a kayak or a stand-up paddleboard. The percentage is just that people were allowed to select multiple options. That's why the percentages don't add up to 100. But again, you can see of the 43 that responded, 20 were for kayak and 26 were for stand-up paddleboards, much smaller numbers for sailboats and hobies.
And when they said boat, they sometimes said things like fishing boats, so. Oh, okay, they're not like, yeah.
Just a graphic to kind of highlight that. So in the green bar graph portion, you can see our current. Again, this is current that responded to the survey. But of the ones that responded to the survey, currently 19 are sailboat, 22 paddleboard, and 12 kayak. When combining with those that indicated interest in future boats, future sailboaters would be 25, future paddleboarders combined would be 48, and future kayak would be 32. So kind of just highlighting that, you know, the demand seems to be for new boaters or interest is in kayaks and stand-up paddleboards. So with that next question, this is to all current boat owner, people that answered that are current boat users and interested in the future. How would you use a storage locker? This is the small, medium, large question. 43% responded that they would like large, 31% medium, 26% small. We broke that down a little bit further. When we look at current voters, overwhelmingly 94% want to keep their large lockers. So this came up quite a bit in the community meeting. Well, the Lakefront Advisory, current voters really want to keep their large lockers. That's what they like. That's what they're used to. That's what they need. And we discussed wanting to maintain our levels of service to them. But when we look at future voters, you can see definitely more of an openness to moving to smaller or medium lockers. So 57% still indicated wanting large lockers, but 43% are interested in small or medium lockers.
One thing. Just to think about with these, if they don't have a boat now, or, you know, thinking about the future, they may not know. I'm just surprised it's like 90-something%
Yeah.
feel, currently both feel like they need that big one. That could, just keep in mind, that could shift
Yeah. I think
once they have one.
I think one of the things that kind of come up in the discussions, different meetings, is the people that are kayakers and paddleboards typically have less gear or gear that's can be broken down. So it could also be that more people that are interested in the
Oh,
future.
these could be the paddleboard.
Right.
Yeah,
They-
but you're right. It's
Yeah.
it's possible they may not realize the amount of gear
Yeah.
they might need.
Yeah, it seems like there's more of an interest if they paid less. They
Yes,
don't
yes.
come carrying their paddles and life jacket down if they could pay less.
Yeah, but they often haven't done it before.
Well, they might have. I mean, paddles are kayak, I kayak and I paddleboard. They break down so easy. So, you know, it's really not that difficult to bring it down. They just need to throw their wallet in. So some might want that advantage. So, and that's obviously what they said here.
Yeah, and so when asking all the respondents, if you were offered a discounted rate for a smaller locker, would you be interested? It was almost split right down the middle. So there does seem to be some interest in moving to a smaller locker at a discounted rate. When you break it down to registered current voters, it does show that there is a little bit more interest from them if you offer a discounted rate. So remember on the previous slide, I think it was 2 people, 2% were interested in small lockers, but when offered a discount, it went up slightly to 21%. When asking prospective future voters, 72% indicated they would be interested in the smaller locker if offered a discounted rate. So kind of seeing the pattern here of, you know, newer or prospective voters are open to the idea of small to medium lockers, and that interest increases if there's a discounted rate provided. So really what we kind of inferred from this, and this all kind of ties together with the fact that we have a limited amount of space. And so as we look to redesign and relocate the lockers, we've stated that we want to make sure we're maintaining our levels of service. So staff would recommend that we look to provide the same number of large lockers that we currently have to meet the current needs. But when there's opportunities to add more lockers, we should consider small to medium lockers that can accommodate more boaters. We just don't have we have a finite amount of space down there, so that we can't paint a picture and expectation that we can just keep adding these large lockers everywhere. You know, each large locker could be 4 small lockers or 2 medium lockers. So it really becomes a number and a spacing game. And so really, I think just all that data is kind of to ask the board if you're in agreement with giving direction to White and Company. We look for the boat storage and locker portion to meet the current needs with our existing large locker inventory, but then look to small and medium options where that opportunity presents itself. Last couple slides, this is just on the general comments. So all the comments were, sorry.
Just to clarify this, week. This is, you would still have larger lockers for the grandfathered people in?
Yes, sir, everybody that currently has now would, we would go in on
That's-
to accommodate that.
I can
It's the
only
future.
see the voters coming on.
That came loud and clear in our advisory.
So that's it, keep, anybody who wants that, but they would still be given the option if they want to pay less to move down.
Yeah, I think we would be creative about things, it doesn't get discussed tonight, but as we're thinking about this, is there a way to store the larger items, like your oars, with your paddle boards and things like that?
Right.
Somewhere more efficiently? 'Cause-
Well,
which is not for tonight, but like.
yeah, no, boards are actually really easy now, because you just break them apart and they can fit in one of the tall. So when we look at configuration of lockers and we purchase new ones, or whatever we're gonna do, if they, all they need is the life jacket, paddles and things, so that might be in the medium locker.
Yeah.
You know, the sails, we're gonna get creative on how we're gonna do those sails.
Sales are stored in a central locker, in a.
Right, so
in the
that's why we
space.
look at that, is it, what we use that, so, yeah, we'll be great about that.
And I don't know if there's a way, but maybe we think about having, you know, like I said, the number of grandfathered and large lockers, but design them or something in a way so that in the future, they could be easy to cut into, you know, pieces. I mean.
The
The system is.
system is modular, so if putting a large locker would be a large locker, but in theory, if we wanted to move in the future,
Right.
to move to more small, you could remove that and put in small and medium. Obviously, you'd be, you know, eating the cost of the large locker, but you wouldn't be handcuffed to only having that locker forever. There'd be a cost to it, but you could swap out. Okay. Last few slides, just to kind of review the comments first. So the comments really just wanted to show that, kind of all over the place and not a one single area that was like hyper focused. You know, the highest percentage was, 11%, and it was about the beach showers, which was the question we asked. So really just kind of highlighting the way that we categorized, it was all different sorts of things, but no real, consistent theme that we had asked about, that stood out to us as like a glaring red flag. Some stuff about operations and rocks and things that we've heard before that aren't really part of this part of the, the design process. Full comments are in the board packet if you wanted to thumb through them.
You haven't read the threat one, it's really bad.
You know,
Exactly.
It really cracks me up.
I was like, oh,
Oh, so I took that one, in terms of strong language. How I took that one is that if we don't do exactly what they want, that means we have left it up.
yeah,
So that's where you take that one.
who's on the inside?
Oh, yeah, who's in the inside? Who's your
Boss,
mom?
probably.
We want
Jackie's
to-
not even that small.
Maybe she's small. Oh, yeah, look at the,
Oh, it's on-
there's a mole on the inside. We better not F this up.
It's a lot.
And I'm like.
Really?
We have not left anything up, if we did stuff, that wasn't exactly how you do it, but nothing's been up. So, yeah, that was the question.
Yeah.
So just some of the themes that came through, just overall, shower and shelter design, wanted to make sure that things were providing some version of privacy, low maintenance materials, color coordination, blending in with the existing designs. Maintenance concerns, there were comments about the operable trellis, and just making sure that we're considering ongoing maintenance of the things we're designing to, which we of course are. Accessibility, inclusivity, all the projects that we do, make sure we're meeting our ADA requirements. Environmental aesthetic consideration, again, just maintaining the natural feel, not designing something that's going to completely clash with the existing look of the beach or the the beach's natural feel. Sustainable materials was a comment. Appreciation for involving the community in this design process was a theme. And then locker preferences, just kind of backing up what the data showed that interest in smaller lockers went discounted, but current voters prefer to keep the large lockers. And just of all those that took the survey, 88% were not registered voters, 12% were, and 87% were Glencoe residents, 13% were not.
There was some.
It really wraps it up. I mean, I think we got the direction that White Company and with that, any other questions or comments, discussion?
Thanks
Oh,
for
thank
doing
you.
this
Yeah.
That's great.
and the presentation and all the effort.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so we think next we're going to stop the recorder and continue the meeting on the.
Yep. Okay, so we're gonna be downstairs, in the lobby. Hillary, your boss is out on waiting for us. Thank you very much.